In just 3 days, the Jeremy's Razors Twitter account surpasses Harry's in followers.
Oh.
So many of you heard a little bit already about this. You know a little bit about it. For those that aren't familiar, Harry's Razors is woke. They denounced the Daily Wire's audience. The Daily Wire launched their own version, essentially, Jeremy's Razors, which now has what do you say, Jeremy? 25,000 subscriptions.
Yeah, 25,000 subscriptions in 72 hours.
Nice.
I'll just say real quick, and we can get into the beginning, the story of all this. The building of culture, the building of infrastructure, which means the ability for someone to buy a razor. You know, people watch Netflix because where else can you go? Well, now the Daily Wire's got something. People buy Harry's razors because, or Gillette because they need razors. And these companies are investing your money in things that you don't value or in people that hate you. So what the Daily Wire is doing is profoundly important. Many people are doing it, but you guys seem to be leading the charge. So Jeremy, do you want to tell us just a bit about how this started?
Yep.
Your position and where you're at?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, what you said, I think, is a big part of it. Like, conservatives have been, sort of in retreat for most of my life, certainly for the last 15 or 20 years. And as a result of that, we've sort of taken a very pessimistic view. Conservatives spend a lot of time lamenting the loss of the past, lamenting the loss of the economy, lamenting the loss of their place in the culture. And Daily Wire has a different attitude. We're not lamenting anything. We're happy to be alive right now. Like, I'm glad that we live at a time where black people can drink from the same water fountains that I do. I'm glad, whatever a water fountain is. I mean, I guess they can drink from the same water bottles that I can. And I'm glad that we have penicillin. Like, there's a lot of that's great about the modern age. What I want to do is take the great values that were established and worked in the past, learn from the past, and build on a foundation. I want to be proactive. I want to be optimistic about the future. I don't want to lament the past. I want to build the future. And so when someone like Harry's virtue signals publicly and attacks my business, I want to build my own business. Like, conservatives deserve razors too. And I think that it's an important, the left, these world corporations, they think that they can sort of rip the culture in half and not pay any economic consequence for it. So I want to rip the economy in half. I want to say, no, if you can't just alienate 50% of the audience, of the people in the country, and still expect them to buy your goods and services, they should buy their own goods and services. And that sounds like I'm saying that I think we should be further balkanized, that I think that we should be further divided. I do in the short term, but I don't in the long term. I desire a country where we're all citizens together, where we can embrace disagreement, where we can embrace political processes. I just think things are so out of alignment right now that to return to a place like that, you have to create economic incentive. Yeah. And the only way to create economic incentive, it's not with temporary boycotts, it's not with complain culture online, it's not with doom scrolling, it's with actively building things that now require companies like Harry's to compete for our business.
Exactly. Competition.
So
did Harry's have any wind of what you guys were planning on doing? Or do you want to just give us the quick version of the story for anyone who doesn't know?
Absolutely. So one of the people who works for me, a peon named Michael Knowles.
Oh, the worst.
I know none of you have ever heard of him. Who has? Michael was on a podcast with another of our hosts, Candace Owens, but it was not a Daily Wire podcast. It was a Prager University podcast, and it wasn't a year ago. It was several years ago.
Wow.
And they had a conversation about how gender dysphoria has historically been categorized as a mental illness.
I believe it. Is it currently in the DSM-5?
And it was that was the conversation. It was a respectful conversation. Fast forward a couple of years, 1 year ago in March, 1 year ago right now, and a Twitter account that had 2 followers,
a high schooler
with 2 followers, pointed out to Harry's that this conversation had taken place, and Harry's immediately reacted on their Twitter account and said, this is inexcusable. This is values misalignment. We're pulling all of our ads, and we're gonna make sure there's no further values misalignment in how we conduct our sponsorships. Well, when you do that, you're signaling to all of my other advertisers that the only excusable thing to do would be to also pull your business from the Daily Wire. That makes it an attack on my business, right? It's not just you taking your spend, which you can do anytime you want. It's you attacking your company, a company that had been your partner previously. It's also attacking my audience. You're saying my entire audience, an audience you paid us to go help you sell razors to, has inexcusable values. And I'm just not going to put up with that anymore. I think one of the beauties of this medium that we all have, this digital presence that we all have, is that there are so many fewer gatekeepers. I don't have to make the radio syndication network happy. The radio syndication network wants you to just take cancellations laying down because they have other shows. They don't want to get into a war with the advertisers. But, with your show, with our shows, we're still going to have the same number of people watching tomorrow, whether Harry's Razors advertises with us or not. So why wouldn't I embrace that freedom? Why wouldn't I use that same amount of time that I used to spend telling people to buy Harry's, which, by the way, Harry's is a great razor. I was proud to tell people to buy Harry's. I was proud that we supported the work that, supported their product. But they don't want my audience to buy their razors, clearly. So I'm going to spend that same amount of time telling my audience that Harry's doesn't want their business, and I do.